Life Cancer Ministry, and we are interviewing 31 breast cancer survivors during the month of October 2020. And while we're rolling up the end of the month, we will definitely be reaching that 31. So feel free to go back and look at all the stories and listen to all the stories that have been shared so far. But today we have with us Miss Eboney Thompson. Hey, Miss Eboney.
How you doing, Miss Rhonda?
I'm great. I'm great. So, Ebony, why don't you just go ahead and get started and tell us your story?
I sure will. I first want to thank you, most definitely for the opportunity, because anytime I can share my story, I pray that it blesses or helps someone in the midst. My story or my journey started on December the 28th, 2018. I had been experiencing like some shortness of breath. Um, and I knew I hadn't been feeling good. I was a little more fatigued, but I counted the shortness of breath being that I was doing too much. I had originally had went to urgent care probably 2 weeks before being diagnosed, and they had told me that it was adult onset asthma. So I was like, oh, okay, well, my dad had asthma, so makes sense because asthma can be it can be hereditary. Okay, so then I took like maybe the cough or whatever. I was like allergies because I suffer from allergies and I live in the valley. So I was like, oh, okay, fatigue because I'm one of those people. My friends used to call me the hustling energizer bunny because I kept going, 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 going. But that was not it. As what me and my kids were actually at home cleaning up after the holidays, taking down the tree and all of that good stuff. And I had walked probably like maybe 5, 6, maybe 10 feet to my bathroom. And I had this sense of just, I could not breathe. I knew I had this sense if I didn't get to the emergency room right then and there, I was gonna die. And I'm not a go to the hospital or any type of person. I'm one of those people. If I can take a pill or a shot of medicine, I'm good. But I knew something was wrong, and so I called my neighbor and I was like, do you mind? Can you take me to the hospital? I couldn't even get out the words. I had to clap really, really loud to get my kids' attention, and they ran in the living room. And so my oldest daughter went with me. My son stayed at home. My kids' ages at the time was 18, 16, 10, and 6. And I am a single mom. And so my daughter went with me. My oldest daughter went with me and my neighbor. And so they took me back right away because I said I couldn't breathe. They didn't know what it was. They thought it was RSV from taking some of the x-rays. And they was like, oh, we can handle this. You probably have to stay in the hospital for maybe 2 or 3 days until we get it handled. But the doctor was like, you know what, let me see. Let's take the CT scan and let's just see what's going on a little bit to see what treatment we would have to take. Was when he took the CT scan that he found out that it was not RSV, it was actually cancer, and it had spread to my lungs. So he came in and he had this look on his face, and he was like, do you mind them? My neighbor stayed, my daughter was in there too, and it was like, do you mind them stepping outside the door? And I was like, whatever you tell them, whatever you tell me, I'm gonna tell them anyway. He was like, well, I was like, okay. So they stepped out, and he was like, you have breast cancer, you have cancer. And I said, what about my kids? It wasn't there was nothing else that I could possibly think about. My kids were my focal point. I was 37 years old when I was diagnosed. No history of family cancer. no of breast cancer, nothing like that. And so he was like, we're going to admit you. So I was in the hospital like right away. They admitted me right away. The next day I saw the oncologist, the oncologist of the hospital, who I am extremely grateful for, and me and him are still friends to this day. And he made sure that I had the best of the best. And it was while I was in the hospital, God was basically like, don't worry, I'm going to see you through. So, and I took that and I ran with it. And so I would be in a hospital, playing my worship music in the morning and throughout the day. And when they would come in and they're like, we're going to do this test, I called up my prayer posse. I'm like, we're going through this test. And I was like, I knew then, I was like, God, you brought me to this, and I know you're going to bring me through it. Now granted, some of the things that I had to endure, I didn't expect it to be that hard, but I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks before they let me go. I experienced every kind of possible test that they could possibly give me. That's how we found out that it was stage 4. I had a port put in while I was there. I even actually went through 2 rounds of chemo treatment while I was there. My first treatment, I was very, very nervous because you see, the closest thing that I've ever been to any kind of cancer or known any kind of cancer was what you see on TV. And so all I could think about is God give me the strength for my children. And I was so blessed because my son and my neighbor helped take care of my little ones. And then my 16-year-old at the time, well, she's now 18, she actually stayed in the hospital with me every day. She did not leave my side whatsoever. So she held my hand through chemo. And I had some people who had bought me like notebooks. My house, my room was filled with flowers. And so once I got home, there's no nurses, there's no doctors, and now I'm on my own. So that's when the mental journey really so sorry. Phone calls. The mental journey really, really took. So I was like, God, I can't just go to any doctor. I need to go to the doctor that you want me to go to. And so I went and I interviewed several different doctors, and the one that stuck out was the one I ended up going to, because everybody, once they found out it was stage 4, they were basically, I'm sorry this happened to you. One doctor told me, this is a shame that this has happened to you. I'm going to make you comfortable. And I'm like, comfortable? I was like, no. I said, thank you, but no, because my belief is in God. He was like, you do realize this is not curable. I said, you said it's not curable, but my God told me that he's going to cure me and he's going to see me through. Therefore, I don't need you to make me comfortable. I need you to give me the medicine that's going to aid in healing me. And so, needless to say, he was not the doctor I went to. As you can see now, and when I left the hospital, I was on oxygen. I had an oxygen tube. And then I found a doctor that I ended up going to, started treatment, came home, was really, really sick. But God sent the right people in my life. And he also, as a mother, I didn't want my kids to have to see me. They had never seen me in a weak state. Like even a couple years ago in 2012, my father passed away, and me and my father were best friends. And I think they saw me cry all of twice, and I cried for like all of 2 minutes, got myself together, and keep it pushing. But it was like God was like, show them who you are, that you do have weak moments, that it's okay, because in your weakness you get my strength. And I roll I roll with that, because there was moments where like definitely the chemo didn't agree. There was moments where like my skin would burn. It was just like from the chemo treatment, because they had me taking tack, and it was really, really strong. And I had told the doctor, I was like, look, I just believe this is just way too strong. And he was like, oh, you'll be fine. And I was like, oh, um, so, and that I ended up in the hospital after that, like three times after that. So 2018 was, no, not 2018, but 2019 was my year of the hospital. We got very acquainted because I was in there. I got admitted and did stays like at least 8 times. Found out that I had blood clots on my lungs. So then I was like, Jesus, what is this? But I take it, and it all has definitely made me stronger. Then the beginning of the year came. We got through 2018, and I was on my way. I started last year. I got to play with all these different color wigs. So, so my kids never know who they're gonna wake up to. They definitely don't know. They was like, who? They ask me all the time, who are you today? And when that's the going conversation with my mom, who lives in Kentucky. When she called, well, who are you today? I'm like, I don't know yet. And so but it was in the midst of it that I really got to find myself. I got to find out who Eboney was and who Eboney is. And my Instagram name, I actually changed it to Becoming Eboney, because it was through and in the midst of all of this, of the cancer journey, is that I found out who I was and who God had created me to be. And I said Becoming Eboney, because I was finally becoming the person that He had destined and purposed me to be. So and it's definitely an ongoing process, but I'm grateful for the journey. I always tell people that cancer didn't happen to me, it actually happened for me, because it was in the midst that I was allowed to grow. Things that I thought I had gotten over, God revealed, no, you're not. And I actually dealt with those things. I got to see my parenting come to life, because as a parent, you hope and pray that you're doing the best job that you could possibly can. And some people like, well, that don't manifest until they're adults. Well, I got to actually see it manifest right then and there, because it was moments where, on the physical standpoint, where when I first got home from the hospital, I couldn't even bathe myself, and my girls were there to do it. My son, when I didn't have the strength to make it to the couch, because I couldn't make it to the bedroom, my son was carrying me to the couch. My little one was sitting by my side and telling me, Mommy, I'm your doctor. Everything's gonna be okay. When I couldn't pray for myself, they would huddle around me and lay hands and pray for me. So I got to see the power of God and Him being there and showing me how to parent on a whole totally different level. And so it has, for I'll go-to scripture all the time is Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to His purpose. And so I saw how, and I'm still seeing how God is changing and allowing me not to fall to the wayside of the stigma of cancer, but be one to survive and thrive through it. And so then we fast forward to 2020. I'm like, yes, Lord, this is the year. And then COVID hit. And I'm like, whoa boy. So the doctor that I was previously at had put me on the pill form of chemo or something to the nature, and it gives me pneumonia. Come to find out, I shouldn't even been on this medicine. I shouldn't have been on the medicine. Not only should I not have been on the medicine, he had me on 2 medicines that I shouldn't have even been on. So the cancer count went back up. The tumor markers and everything went back up. And here I was in the hospital with pneumonia, and they was basically telling me, count it all joy, you are about to be done with. I was on a ventilator, not a ventilator, but like the high flow ventilator. The doctors was telling me, asking me, do I have a will? Who do I want to be contacted? Is my kids okay? And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm not a hospital person. You remember, I'm not a hospital person. And anytime I've ever went in the hospital, I've always had somebody to stay. So with COVID going on, there's nobody staying with you. So here I am in this hospital, and everybody's like rushing at me, running at me. Unfortunately, I ran into some nurses and staff that weren't the best. Yeah, they weren't the best. One day I was, because I started having panic attacks. I started having real bad panic attacks, and I was in the midst of having a panic attack, and I was on a FaceTime with my mom, and my mom had to call all the way from Kentucky in order for them to come in my room, because I was punching a button, and I had been punching a button for like 45 minutes. And that's just something small considering like what they were doing. So I ended up having to report the hospital, even though I had stayed there a lot of times, but this time, and that was my motivation. I went, because when I was in there, I was telling people, make sure that whether your significant other or loved one is in the hospital, or if they are in these facilities, and I tell people now, make sure that they're okay. Don't go by the word of those people that are in the hospital. Oh, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, they're fine. You're not there, so you can't see. So you need to somehow, some way, make sure that they're okay. Because when I first went in there, they wasn't cleaning the room properly. They weren't, not only were they not, the nurse that I had, she would come in when she felt like it. I had an issue with the high flow machine where it was blowing extremely, extremely high. And they pretty much just left me in there for 45 minutes with this machine that is blowing, and I'm having trouble breathing. And she was like, oh, he'll be here in a minute. Like, literally, it was like, I don't care. And I was just like, if I'm getting treated like this and I can speak, what about the people who can't speak? So once again, I was in a hospital again for 2 weeks. And I told them, I was like, no, I'm going home. I'm going home. And they was just like, oh, so when they did the turnaround, because they had found at one point that I had a hole in my lung. I had a hole in my lung, and they was like, oh, we're doing surgery. And I was like, God, I'm not trying to do any kind of surgery. These people are mean enough right now. I don't. And the doctor was like, well, we're going to put it out for a little while longer. And it all worked out, because the hole that they found, which they said it was the size of a quarter, it actually healed up. So I was like, thank you, Jesus. So he allowed me to go through and went through that process. But it was in that process that I ended up finding the team of doctors, because I left the doctor that I was at. Left the doctor I was, and I found the team of doctors that I have now, who are amazing. The staff is amazing. Shout out to Dr. Sheila Basan and the LA Cancer Network. They are amazing. I love everybody in the office. Even down to like chemo treatment, when having to go through, even though my daughter or my son or whoever didn't get to sit in there with me, they allowed them in the office and going through the process. So they'd be sitting outside. But that was definitely a big change, because I was so used to having somebody there by my side and going through and having to go through that process of being in a hospital by myself, and then going to doctors by myself. And then, like, even with COVID, you have to be very, very careful wherever you go. So like a lot of meetings and a lot of stuff I do at home, grocery shopping. I usually send my oldest two children. I just send them with a big list, but I usually send them. I'm very, very, very careful where I go. Like sometimes I have like the blue mask and then another mask. I double mask and gloves, and it's little I call it sanitation stations all around the house. I have them like by my door, by my room, in the bathroom, to make sure wash your hands, then sanitize your hands, like take your shoes off at the door, like it's all of that. But COVID has definitely, I guess sometimes just not being able to see a lot of people, because you can't really get together like you normally would. And then I'm very mindful and careful of who I even let in the house. So, and like that's even with the kids. So like me and the kids have definitely become super, 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 super close during COVID season, because we really don't go anywhere. So we make do with what we have. My daughter, she actually graduated this year. And so and she turned 18. So we had a prom in the living room. We all dressed up and all that kind of stuff. We made sure she had a prom and 18th birthday, and my son, and so we went camping in the living room. Like we have imagination station has been over here really. But COVID was definitely it's taught us, one, who's there and who's not, because there's people who I would think that would call and check up and all that kind of stuff, and you haven't heard from them. But it's also taught me like who are my root people in my life, who are my root people, like who are my root people, who are really my friends. Because even though a lot of people, I understand a lot of people got a lot of stuff going on, but it doesn't take much to reach out to somebody and be like, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Sometimes that's all people need. I think a lot of people, when they found out that I was going through that, I needed like this full-blown conversation. And some of the messages that actually touched me the most was just like the inboxes or the text messages that were like, I didn't want anything. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Or, hey, how are you? It was those messages, and it was from people that I wouldn't even think would reach out. And those were the ones that touched me the most, because I'm like, you took time out of your day to see how I was doing. So that was definitely a thing. And just been on the journey alone, what has helped me was to actually be a blessing to others. Because God, I was like, I know I'm not going through this just for me, even though it's changed me. but I know that I'm going through it for others. So I found that in the process, people would contact me. Hey, my friend is going through this. Or do you mind if I give her your number? I'm like, no, of course not. Or I've had friends who have been diagnosed themselves, and they would call me and be like, hey, Ebony, this is what I found out. Like, I'm scared. What should I do? Different stuff like that. I definitely praying with them and for them. And then, like, hey, this is some things that I did. And just being that sounding board for people. But what I've told most of them, if not all of them, is one, having your mind that no matter what, I'm gonna make it and I can get through. Um, that you are stronger than what you're stronger than what you seem, that you make yourself out to be. So I tell people that, and one of the things I also tell them is journal everything. Journaling has been my friend, because I call my pen and my paper my best friend, because sometimes when I don't necessarily have the words that I feel like to tell God, or that I can't really call like my best friend in the whole wide world, because I'm just like, she's not gonna understand. I know my pen and my paper will, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's gonna end up reading it. So the start journaling, and for some people, they're like, oh, I don't like to write. Okay, well, we all got cell phones. Dictate it. Do that voice memo, and just say how you're feeling, and your feelings are valid. Never think that no matter what somebody say, oh, stop crying, don't do this. No, your feelings are always valid, because nobody knows what you're going through but you. But you. So like, you say what you need to say. If you need to cry, honey, you better sit there and cry and cry and cry again. But when it comes to the mental state, yeah, you are gonna have mental moments, but don't stay there. Don't stay there. So I always tell people, find a way, find a picture, find something. Always keep it in front of you, that even when you're down and you have those moments, um, keep something in front of you that is going to bring you out of it. And so for me, it was always kept a picture of my kids on my phone or in my purse or whatever the case may be. I always kept a picture of them. So when I had those moments and I picked up my phone, my reasons why were always right there in front of me. Always. So I tell people that, definitely, like, especially newly diagnosed people, I always tell them that. So like, keep that picture, or keep something in front of you. Definitely journal. And also affirmations for me were huge. And actually, because when my hair fell out, that was definitely a moment, because I used to keep my hair short all the time. So like, I was at shortcut and all that kind of stuff. But then to lose my hair was something definitely different. So my children, what they did was they took sticky notes, and they put affirmations, and a lot of stuff is a lot of stuff that I would say, like different scriptures that they would hear me say when you don't really think that they listening. They wrote affirmations and scriptures on the sticky notes and put them in the bathroom, on the bathroom mirror, in the form of a breast cancer ribbon. And so when I would go in there, I would look at them, and then after a while I would sing them. And then I made it a purpose and a point that no matter how I felt, even if I didn't feel what I was saying in a moment, to keep repeating it, and say it and say it and say it. And so eventually, when I keep saying it, I kept saying, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I kept saying, though he slayed me, I will still trust him. You know, I was saying, I'm the head and not the tail. I am healed by his stripes. I am healed. I was saying I am beautiful no matter what. I am brave. And so like they had all of these different, you know, words and different scriptures. And slowly but surely, you know, that depression broke. I started believing in what I was saying, was hearing myself say, and I got my strength back and my mental strength. And once I got mental strength, I got physical strength. And so even though it has definitely been a battle, it is not, I was like, Lord, I done had 4 kids. This is probably, that was, you know, people say that's hard. No. Going through cancer is hard. But it's not something that you cannot make it through. So I've definitely learned a lot on the journey of it. And I'm here, and God still has a reason for me to be here. And I'm definitely just keep on pushing it and doing any and everything he wants me to do.
All right. So I heard you say 2 things. I heard you say metastasis.
Mm-hmm.
So are you still considered to be in stage 4? Are you healed? What's the story on that? And then it sounds like perhaps there's a business or a book that you might want to tell us about.
Yes. Well, of course, they say that it's always that once you're stage 4, you're always stage 4. I don't necessarily believe that. When they gave me all clear, I was like, honey, I'm healed. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's all I needed. That is all I needed. So, but you know, because that's what they say in the medical field. But my doctors are so amazing. They was like, girl, you good, you good. But I still go see them and all that good stuff. I actually got an appointment with them tomorrow. But yes, I mean, it is. They say that you have when it has spread, and when mine had spread, it had not only went from the breast to the lungs, and also my bones. So that was I was like, oh Lord, like, but like I said, God's a healer. And last time I had that PET scan, it was nothing was there. So definitely thanking God each and every day for that. And yes, there is a book. Like I actually wrote a book last year, and I'm in the process of writing another one. But it's called The Hustle Journey. This and that was actually available on Amazon. I wrote that when my first 8 months going through like chemo and just the whole treatment and everything. And so it's kind of like what I went through in the beginning to let people know that it was a mess, but guess what, I still made it. And you can also make it through. It's just the change of the mindset. And every people was like, oh, I seen this and I seen that in there. And I was like, what you fail to realize that even in the process of writing that, because I think people, they forget to tell you about chemo brain. And chemo brain, it was so real, and it is still real. But
But
I
they
wanted,
forgot to tell you.
yeah, they tell you
They
that
probably had chemo brain too.
they leave that out. I had to look that up because I was like, be in the middle of a conversation and be like, what did I just say? Or what was I gonna say? But yeah, so they forget to tell you about that. And through the book itself, like you could see spaces. Like I had my editor, and she was like, "Girl, you got so many. There's a couple." She didn't say so many, but I said so many. There is places where you could see it, but I didn't change it in that sense. I didn't change it because I wanted people to see that even though if that's a thing, like one, that's a thing, and two, even in the midst, you can still do things. Because I think a lot of people wait, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm cancer free until so I can do this and do that and do that. Well, God told me not through chemo. Like, I would come home from chemotherapy and sit down and create, do like a whole creation. Like, I was creating logos for people. I was doing graphics. I was writing different stuff. I was I was doing so much. Like, I'm just coming home and doing like several different things, and but I didn't let the battles and the woes of cancer actually stop me from doing what I needed to do. Because it was like, okay, girl, well, you believe God is healing you, that you're healed. Guess what you need to do? Act like it. And so that's what I did. Now, definitely, I had my days and even sometimes weeks where I had to rest and lay down and do my thing. But other than that, I still made an effort to be productive. And so I did this. I did the hustle journey. And then just recently, I launched a company called Believe Her. And it's a t-shirt and sweatshirt apparel, as well as organization. Because before the diagnosis, I was definitely a very organized person, and I'm still trying to be an organized person. And one of the things that I love planners. Like, if anybody ever wants to give me anything for my birthday or Christmas, my kids know they could never fail giving me a planner and really pretty pens. Like, never, ever, ever. So what I did was, like, on the journey of the whole cancer journey and everything, there was like, I knew I was having to like add different stuff to my planners, because I could never find one that I wanted and that I needed, or not only that I needed, but just like everything just in one. I had to have like several different planners, or I had to like add stuff to the one that I had to make it my own. So Believe Her, our motto is believe that she will fight, believe that she will win, believe that she will conquer. And so the first thing that I created was this planner right here, the planner. And so what the planner is, like, I have a space in there for phone numbers, because when you go through cancer, you definitely have a legit like 70 different doctors, it feels like. You have pharmacies, and you might have to change the pharmacy, and you have all these people that you got to connect. And granted, we all have our cell phones, but what if your caretaker can't get into your phone, or you don't have access to your phone, but you have access to the planner? So there's a place where you can write down all your numbers. I put in there like a chemo round, like chemo countdown. So where people can, if you're going through chemo, you can count, you can mark off the days and the times and the rounds, just to encourage you to see how close you are. It has a place in there that for you to write down your different dates, where you have to go to the doctor or go get your chemo dates. I have a place in there where, or like I said, chemo brain is real. So there's a lot of space in there for note taking, and where you can write down notes, just so that you can, when that thought comes, you write it down so you don't forget. And I also have like a goals section in there where you write your goals. Like, what are your goals? Some people are like, oh, my financial goals. But for some, a goal is this next round of chemo that I don't get sick, or maybe to gain 5 pounds, or whatever it may be. So I have a section in there where every month you can write down your goals. And I have a section in there called a penny for your thought. So, and that part right there is to give thanks. What are you thankful for? What are you thankful for that month? Like, what are some things that you are grateful for that happened in that month? And then lastly, I have well, not lastly, but there's a lot of stuff that I put in there. But there's a place in there where you can write down your mid-year goals. So like how far you've come, how far, what goals that you set at the beginning of the year that you actually achieved. Now, what is your next set, your next set of goals for the next 6 months? So I did that, and for every month there's a quote. There's an inspirational quote to pretty much like get you through. And then like most have like little small things, but I did that. That's the inside for pretty pages and to give you enough room to write down your stuff. And I know like for me, I put stickers like you got this, you can do it. And I put like all the different stuff in there to like just be an inspiration. And so I knew all that I needed in a planner. So I was like, let me try to create one myself. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm doing. But it all came out. It came out great. And so I'm very, very, very happy about that. And I'm very happy about Believe Her, just because I believe that it's going to be able, to definitely be able to bless people with the products. And I have a lot more products and stuff lined up to come soon. Uh-oh, you're on mute. You're muted.
You are so inspiring, Ebony, to be going through so much, to make it as a single mom, to have children that display the teaching that you have placed in them, and how God just continues to stir them up. Because there's a lot of young people that would be like, I don't understand. My mama's sick and I don't know what to do. But you have surely raised up 4.
I'm very grateful.
So, Ebony, please tell them how they could get in touch with you.
Yes, if anybody wants to get in contact with me, I'm all over social media. You can contact me on Facebook at my personal page, which is Eboney Thompson. You can follow me on Instagram at Becoming Ebony. I have a website to come, and I'm gonna have a session that we're about to start. It's called Pink Sister Chat, and it's geared towards people. And it doesn't necessarily have to be breast cancer, but if you're just going through cancer in general, it'll be a section to where if you can book time to have a conversation with me, and I can just be your listening ear, your praying partner, or whatever that may be. So, but if you would like to email me, you can email me at info@iambecoming.me. So those are different ways that people can reach out and contact me.
Awesome. Well, again, Ebony, I thank you so, so much for coming on and sharing your story. I am sure that many will be blessed as a result of what they heard from you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So again, I am Pastor Rhonda, founder of Celebrate Life Cancer Ministry. If you want more information about Celebrate Life, we can be reached at celebratelifecm.org. That's celebratelifecm.org. Or if you're going through the journey and just need someone to talk to, whether you're a cancer survivor, you're a cancer fighter, you're a cancer thriver, or a caregiver, feel free to give us a call at 424-258-5433. Again, that number is 424-258-5433. We thank you so much for joining with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Yay!